Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. People are just rolling in real quick, and then we'll start in a minute shortly. Awesome. Sweet. Okay. We have people coming in. Well, before we start, I'm gonna just put in the chat where you guys are from, what cities. Let's get an idea. I know we have a lot of Mississaugas. I know people have been joining Mississaugas. Okay, Toronto, Burlington. Okay, Mississauga. Scroll up. Yeah, Mississauga, Brampton, Guelph. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, well, I think we can jump in. Yeah, we have a good amount of people already here. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar, Your Backyard Bank, Leveraging Real Estate for Financial Freedom. My name is Chirag.
And hi, I'm Andrea.
And we're thrilled to have you here today. So, have you ever been skeptical of the Canadian real estate market? Perhaps you've heard conflicting advice, seen sensational headlines, simply felt uncertain about how or when to invest or why you should invest. Well, you're not alone, and today we're here to give you a clear path and provide you with information so you can actually take action with clear insights. Throughout this webinar, we're going to demonstrate the value and the strength of the Canadian real estate market, especially here in the GTA. We're going to debunk some common stereotypes and misinformation, and we'll guide you through the current real estate market trends, economic factors that highlight the robust opportunities available here. Whether you're a home buyer looking to enter the market or a current homeowner looking to grow your real estate portfolio, our goal is to equip you with tools and knowledge you need to achieve financial freedom through real estate. And we're going to do it today in our webinar. We're going to jump onto a quick little agenda to give you guys an idea of what we're going to discuss. So first, we're going to give you a bit of a background. Now, I know a lot of you folks here that I see do know us, but some of you guys are here brand new. So we'll give you a bit of background about us and who we are and how we help the families and the clients that we work with. And then we're going to go into a little bit of a data-driven approach, right? We're going to get down to the statistics of things. We got to look at what is happening, where is it going, and what it means for you. Right? Home prices, same over there as well. Asset appreciation. We're going to look at different ways assets appreciate and how you can actually leverage that for you and your family's future. Common concerns. We get a lot of concerns all the time, right? There's been a lot of volatility in the market in the last just year and a half. So we're going to make sure that we address these concerns for you head on so you're more comfortable. Now we have, what does all this mean for you, right? The approach really here today is about tying it all together for everybody, right? To understand why this matters and why you should be paying attention to it. And then of course Q&As, because your opinion matters to us a lot, right? If you have any questions, as always, remember that you can put them in the, there's a little button you can click for the questions. They come straight to us, we can view it. And
it's anonymous, so feel free to ask. It's only coming to us, and so nobody else can see your questions, and we won't call out people's names. We're just going to read the question.
Confidential, absolutely. Yeah. We're not going to call people's names, just be on the confidential side of things. Cool. Everybody on board? Sweet.
Awesome.
Yes.
Let's get into it.
Yes. Okay, sweet. Let's get into it then.
Awesome. So let's dive a little bit into our background, because as Chirag has mentioned, some of you guys we do know, some of you are new here. So let me tell you a little bit about who we are and our team. So at Team Rana Realty, our mission goes beyond a transaction, because we believe in building long-term relationships where we can create memories that last a lifetime. And really, we want to be able to build futures for the families that we work with through personalized real estate solutions. And one of our key differentiators is the fact that we really believe in a data-driven approach. We really want to be able to show our clients numbers so that way they can make the best decisions possible. And the philosophy that we have is that our clients should have the same information that we do. We would like full transparency.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, right? When you have transparency, you can actually have open conversations that are focused on results and goals and financial futures, right? When we don't have those things set in place, you're not building the right foundational steps to make sure you're aligned for success. And so for us, because we have a very data-driven approach, and not only our business, even in our personal lives, that's why for us, we love what we do. And our team particularly, we subscribe to over 21 local regional boards in Southern Ontario that we have access to. And we pull it all together to make sure that our clients, people that we work with, have the information they need to make smart decisions.
And that's why we go with a strategic approach, as you had mentioned, where we create personalized packages and solutions for our clients. And again, it's all backed by data, so that way they can make the best decision possible for them and their families.
Now, enough about us. Let's jump straight into the content, what we're all here for. First, we're going to look at the flashy media headlines, right? You've been hearing a lot of misinformation from major media outlets all across the board for ever since COVID. Really, it's been ups and downs in a lot of different ways. Here's an example of Bill Maher. He put out a video about a month ago. About a month ago. So this is very recent. Talking about right over here. Yeah, talking about what's happening in Canada, the entire scope of the environment, and comparing it to America. So we're not going to play the entire video. You can search this up yourself later on if you want to watch. But we're going to play a little clip of it to show you what people are thinking and saying.
The audio is not coming through. Hold on.
Give us
Give us
second.
one moment.
Gotta love technology. Let me tell you that.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
let's
always gotta have a plan B. We're prepared, right? So just give us a second. We're gonna share the other screen with you guys real quick.
I'm gonna do this. 1 second. And we will do this here and here. Perfect. So you should be able to see the screen now.
Yep.
And hopefully the audio will come through, which
it's not. Yeah, give me a second, folks.
There we go.
Okay, let's see.
This should be working now.
That's your Canada.
Perfect.
Let's actually put it back on the left here. Sorry, just very quickly. Can I have
Right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So just move it back here.
Apologies, folks. Look, at the end of the day, technology is ever evolving and ever giving you pains. But it's also beneficial because it enables us to do even better. It gives us the data we need to help you. But it's okay. We're gonna figure this out.
Okay, we got it. All right, here we go.
Year Canada added 1.3 million people, which is a lot in 1 year, the equivalent of the US adding 11 million migrants in 1 year. And now they're experiencing a housing crisis even worse than ours. And we're sleeping in tents. The median price of a home here is 346 grand. In Canada, converted to US dollars, it's 487. If Barbie moved to Winnipeg, she wouldn't be able to afford her dream house, and Ken would be working at Tim Hortons. And because of mortgage debt, Canada has the highest debt to GDP ratio of any G7 nation. I don't know what that means, but it sounds bad. So does their vaunted healthcare system, which ranks dead last among high-income countries in access to primary healthcare and ability to see a doctor in a day or two. And it's not for lack of spending. Of the 30 countries with universal coverage, Canada spends over 13% of its economy on it, which is a lot of money for free healthcare. Look, I'm not saying Canada still isn't a great country. It is, but those aren't paradise numbers. If Canada was an apartment, the lead feature might be America adjacent.
All right, so we're gonna pause it there. Now, if you want to watch the full video, by all means, go ahead, search the title up and you'll find it. It's posted about a month ago. But here is a perfect example of what misinformation gets spread around without giving people context and people actually believe this kind of stuff. And we're gonna get down to the bottom of this now. So in this video, a lot of immigrants are coming in. Average house prices are way too high. Healthcare going down the drain. There's very high debt for the country. Now, in the rest of this webinar, we're gonna go step by step and we're gonna give you information. And by the end of it, our hope is to tell you that, hey, listen, you tell me if you believe in the same messaging that Bill Maher has just presented to you, saying that Canada's opportunities are gone, or do you actually see there's prosperous future here? So let's jump into it.
First, we are going to cover just very briefly a few of the common concerns that we hear from clients, everyday people that we speak with when they are discussing the real estate market. First, one common concern is the financial concerns. Can I even afford a home? 2, market timing. Is now the right time to buy? 3, property selection. What if I choose the wrong property? Now, these are extremely valid concerns to have, and we do not fault anybody for having them. In fact, you probably are not alone in having these concerns, but we hope to be able to dispel these concerns for you guys and help you understand that there's a lot of opportunity out there. It's all about the strategic approach that you take in getting to your end goals. And before we get into any specifics, we want to actually provide you with a clear picture of what is going on in the real estate market today, and really explore the value and the strength of the real estate market, specifically here in Canada and also in the GTA. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now, guys, we do this professionally and we do this on a daily basis. So we are very informed with some of these numbers because it's part of our job and it's part of our personal lives as well because we love investing in real estate. One thing I always find, people think, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know about this, and they get frustrated or upset that why didn't I know about this sooner? It's not about that. What you don't know, and you can't get upset about that. However, when you find out about something, the important thing is that's when you start to act. That's when you have to take the actions in the right places, with the right people, with the right strategies in place to make sure you do succeed, because it is possible and the opportunities are here. And we're going to dive into it right now.
Yeah, we're going to move on to what the current data is showing us.
Okay, so here we see the Canadian GDP and the unemployment rate. And what does this tell us? What does this mean for you? All right, let's take a closer look, right? These are key economic indicators that highlight the strength and the resilience of the Canadian real estate market. How? Well, let's have a look. The number one spot, and by the way, this chart is as of October 2023, and it's about showing which industries contribute the most to the Canadian GDP on an annual basis. So real estate and rent and leasing is at $291.8 billion. That's great. Why that's really impactful is that unlike America, where the GDP per industry are in the trillions of numbers, we're actually just in the lower 100 billions. So even a small increment difference could actually mean a wide spread in percentage-wise. Manufacturing, which is usually the backbone of every nation, right? It's your global input and output, right? It's where you take in, it's where you produce, it's where you send out. Manufacturing here in Canada is at $211 billion. That's almost a third less. Almost a third less than how real estate helps this country grow. Money the government earns to help this first world growing economy develop even better, right? So when people say, when people tell you that there's a housing bubble, real estate market is going to crash, do they also show you these numbers? Have they also themselves looked at these numbers, right? Because what this graph shows us that there's a high investor confidence in real estate market here in Canada, and it indicates that the Canadian real estate market itself is here to stay strong. We've seen it throughout COVID when there was a huge uncertainty in the markets, everyone freaking out, what's going to happen to their money, what's going to happen to their investments. And guess what? Real estate is one of the only investment vehicles that stayed steady, stayed strong, and excelled, right? So there's always volatility. However, it's now moving on to employment rate. Why does this matter? Well, people got to be able to afford homes. People got to have the jobs, the money, the financial well-being to be able to afford mortgages, right? So in addition to the GDP, let's consider now unemployment rate, which is another crucial indicator. And this graph right here tells us that unemployment rate over the years with a notable decline in the recent years. And an all-time low unemployment rate suggests that a robust job market is present and shows that there's a strong buying power. Right? Now, particularly here in the GTA area, this is where the jobs are, right? From all sectors, finance, medical, manufacturing, even if it's general labor, because all the big corporations are here. So when people migrate or immigrate to the country, there's three major hubs, right? Ottawa, but it doesn't have a great pool of different jobs or sectors. Vancouver, too expensive. And what you're left with, GTA Toronto. A third of every person coming in to this country, or sorry, into Ontario, comes to the GTA. Why? Because the jobs are here, the buying power is here, right? So this tells us that these economic factors demonstrate a resilient and growing real estate market in Canada. Despite the challenges, the concerns often mentioned, such highlights from the Bill Maher don't really get backed, because when you look at data like this, because you realize, wait a second, it's very different. You have to look at the numbers. You have to be able to go out and find the information that you need before you make your mind and decision on this is what's going on. Okay. Moving on to interest rates. I know this is a nail biter for a lot of you folks. You know, we get it all the time. Should I buy right now? The rates are this. Should I wait? Chirag, Andrea, this is what my mortgage looks like if the rates are high. You know, should I wait? Should I not? There's a lot going on. So we're going to give you a little bit of a picture of what it means to be in a high or low interest rate environment for a buyer and a seller. So we'll give you all the entire picture, right? And then we're going to talk about what you should be focusing on and how you should be looking at it and why you should be looking at it that way. See, when you're looking at interest rates, this can impact a buyer's affordability drastically. It can also hold people back drastically, right? But if you have the right systems in place, it can also enable you to make sure that you make profit. That's what we're all here for, financial freedom, right? So when buying a home and interest rates are higher, the cost of borrowing increases, right? Which means higher monthly mortgages, which means there's less buyers in the market, which means that the cost of maintaining a current real estate asset is higher, right? We hear people say that they want to wait until the rates go down because they think that they're going to save money. Well, that may be the case, but it's also important to consider the other side. A less discussed benefit is that when rates are higher, that leads to less competition on the market. Fewer buyers are able to afford homes, right? So this presents a really unique opportunity to be able to purchase properties at a lower price than what other people in the neighborhood have already bought at, right? And if your affordability is in, the numbers make sense for you, high interest rates shouldn't actually hold you back. It should pull you in closer. I'm competing against less people. I have more negotiation power. I can go to a seller and hold my terms, right? I can buy properties at lower rates that allow me to ride out a short-term hike of interest rate and then capitalize on a greater return than somebody else who had waited until rates had dropped to then jump in the market with 1 billion other buyers. Million, I should say, because we're not that population yet. So now let's look at on the flip side, when rates are lower. When rates are lower, there's the cost of borrowing is much cheaper. I can pick up way more money for a much lower monthly amount, right? And making it more affordable for buyers to jump in, so you have more competition. When you have more competition coming in, you have the same amount of assets that are available, which is the homes. Well, there's scarcity now. All of a sudden, the same asset is worth more because there's less of it. There's more buyers willing to pay more because it's so cheap to pick up more money, right? So you have bidding wars. Now, impact on sellers. For sellers, high interest rates typically means that there's fewer buyers in the market. This can lead to lower market valuations, lower sold prices, more negotiation for buyers. Sellers might be more flexible and realistic about their pricing potentials, about their timelines of being able to sell a home, right? Now, on the flip side, if the rates are lower, well, that's great. I mean, the sellers are in a candy shop. I mean, for them, it's fantastic because now you have more buyers in the market. Properties move faster. There's more bidding wars happening. Higher sale prices are happening. The entire environment is more favorable towards the sellers to achieve their desired prices and goals because there's plenty of buyers. If this guy doesn't want to buy at what you want, there's another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and so on and so forth, right? Now, that's what happens as an impact to high and low for buyers and sellers. Let's have a look at what's actually happening with rates and what it means. The graph on the top right, you see interest rates from 2010 to about 2024. Okay, now a lot of folks have been looking at the chart for the last little while, ever since rates are starting to go up, and media's been showing the chart a lot too. And they'll be like, oh my God, we're at an all-time high. Like it's the sky's falling. We can't afford anything no more, and we shouldn't do anything. We gotta wait. We gotta stop. So on and so forth. But the reality is, folks, you're looking at 14 years of data.
It's a small snapshot of the bigger picture.
Now let's zoom out a little. Let's look at the bottom graph. The bottom graph is from 1991 till 2021, right? Much better perspective of what's been going on in Canada, right? So I know some of you folks have actually arrived in Canada after 2010, which is why you've just been focusing on since you've got here. And that's okay. What you don't know, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're gonna tell you what you need to know. So this graph right here. So it's since 1991 till 2021, you can clearly see that the current rates are actually relatively low compared to historical levels. And we're at almost like an average, really. And yet still with political things shifting in the country, with governments wanting to make affordability better in the next coming year, rates are going to go down. Rates are going to go down lower and lower. Where do they stop? We don't know. Are they going to go up? Maybe. What's really important is we have to look at what the rates are now. What's happening right now? Let's plug in the numbers now and see if the numbers make sense, if the data makes sense. Does a decision that we're trying to make actually make sense on papers and numbers? And we use different professionals in their respective fields to get their expertise in a consultative approach to bring to you, so then we can actually make smart decisions. This is not about buying, selling, or investing in a real estate asset. That's a transactional approach. We don't do that. For us, it's about a strategy that we build together with you, with data like this, because it's important. Okay. Now,
if we move on.
Yeah, here's another real life example. Right. So let's just say somebody had bought a property when the rates were low. They bought it for $1 million. Now remember what it said in the last slide. When rates are low, there's more buyers. There's more bidding wars. You're paying more for the same asset because the cost of borrowing is cheap, right? So somebody bought a townhouse, let's say, or a semi-detached for $1 million, 2.5% interest rate. People got even lower rates than that back then. But anyway, so you know, you're 20% down, your mortgage, you got $800,000. Your mortgage looks like around $3,160. Great. On the flip side, let's say somebody has bought a real estate asset now at 5.5% interest rate. And because they bought at 5.5% interest rate, they actually had less buyers on the market. And people were more scared to jump into properties. So not only were we able to knock down that inflated price of the asset that the previous person bought at, we were able to get and leverage a better negotiating terms to get more money in our buyer's pocket and not have to pay to the seller. And this is also, I should say, this is a recent example without getting into the depth of things. Okay. Now at 5.5, 20% down, the mortgage at about $680,000, and the mortgage came out to around $3,834. That's okay. You're paying $700 more. They could afford it. Numbers made sense, so we moved forward. Now, what happens on 3 years from now? That's what really matters, right? You're looking at what's going to happen with my investment at that point. Well, when you look at the lower interest rate side, by the end of 3 years, you will have paid $57,991 in annual interest. On the flip side, you have annual principal, and you would have gotten back that you've paid back principal of $55,000. That's great. You have $55,000 in your pocket that you've paid off in 3 years. Let's flip it. On the higher rate side, if somebody buys a high rate property, what do their 3-year out look like, the numbers? Well, they would have paid $108,000 in interest, and that's alarming, right? That's like, holy crap, that's $50,000 more than what I would have paid if I bought a lower rate. I agree. And then they would have paid annual principal of almost 30 grand back, right? So, but that would be money in your pocket, and it's still $20,000 less than what somebody who purchased at a lower rate is. However, here's what gets really interesting, and here's what people don't talk about. I was able to buy the same asset for a client at $150,000 less than what somebody else paid at a higher rate or at a lower rate. Okay, and as soon as the rates flip, guess where my property is going? In that same range. And then on top of that, my property that we bought for our client, 2 years later, is going to be $150,000 less than what somebody else paid. And as soon as the rates flip, guess where my property is going? In that same range. And then on top of that, my property that we bought for our client is appreciating at 5% year over year.
At
Okay,
least.
at least in the pockets that we're buying at, we're looking at higher than that. Okay, because data-driven approaches make a difference. Okay, so now not only do they have $30,000 in principal, they have an asset they bought for $150,000 less, so that's that much equity back in their pocket, and they will have their initial down payment that they put into the place. So all in all, this is a way more favorable scenario for you 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And like we said in the previous chart, average home prices, things go up.
So at the end of the day, it's really about understanding where you want to be and taking a look at the numbers, because for some people, this higher interest rate scenario might not actually work for you, might not work with your budget, with what you can afford, and that's completely fine. But what we're trying to say is that just because you see an interest rate which might be higher, it should not stop you from potentially purchasing in the real estate market if you are ready and you want to purchase, of course. At the end of the day, it's sitting down, breaking down all the numbers, speaking to the professionals, and seeing what makes sense, understanding all the options. Is it better to buy now? Because maybe you might be able to afford it. And even though you might be able to afford it, you might decide, you know what, I don't want to buy now. But that's okay, as long as you sit down and have that conversation to understand all of your options.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, guys, it's not about jumping in as soon as you can right away, head first, without looking at anything. No, you need to make sure you sit down and talk to the right people and have the right conversations so you are informed. All too often, I notice that people believe they know more and they want to do more because it's their money involved, and that's great. I'm all for people who are involved. But the thing is, what our philosophy is, you should excel in your profession. Let us excel in ours. Let's collaborate and bring that together to a strategy that we can carry forward, right? Because at the end of the day, we love what we do, and we do this every day. Just like how you love what you do, I hope you really do, and you do that every day, right? So at the end of the day, you focus on what you are driven about, we will focus on what we're driven about, and we're gonna put that synergy together, right? Now, let's look at immigration.
Because
this is important.
For sure, immigration is a very significant factor into the real estate market in Canada. And as we can see, and we have seen, immigration trends have been on a very large increase. And if we take a look at the chart to the right, what we see is that over the last 2 decades, immigration to Canada has been on an upward trajectory. And we have seen a record year in 2021 to 2022, where we welcomed just under 500,000 new immigrants. Now that is a huge number. And then what we have seen is that on average since 2015, we have welcomed just around 300,000 immigrants every single year. Now let's just take that in for a moment. That is a large amount.
That's a lot, right? And you notice that there is a upward trend happening, right after COVID times. Why is that? In and around COVID times, policy was shifting and changing. Why is that? Well, guys, think about it this way. Remember we talked about the GDP of Canada. We talked about how the government earns money. Well, the government earns money basically through taxation, because we don't have state-run or provincial-run corporations or businesses that earn billions of dollars that can sustain itself. No, we earn money through taxation, right? So when you look at earning money through taxation, how can we earn more taxes? How can we get people to pay us more taxes? Is it more efficient, more beneficial for us to pay more money to retrain our current labor force to earn higher wages than to pay more taxes? Or is it more efficient and smarter to look at, okay, we have a population going in this direction. Here are the needs of the people that we see in this many industries. Here's what we're going to open the doors up to this many people across the globe, and we're going to bring in these people. Now, whether those people come in and get those jobs in this country or not, that's a whole separate social issue which we're not going to get into. But they come here driven. They pay to come here. They're motivated. They are bringing their families abroad. They are leaving everything behind. and they want to make sure they succeed in the Canadian dream. And like I said, they pay to come here. So the government is bringing all this influx of people in because they need to earn money. Our deficits are high. We do need to pay off our debts. We do need to sustain this economy. We are a first world country and we are a developing nation. So we need to sustain itself.
And where are these immigrants going, you might be asking? Well, a majority are moving to Ontario, and of course, particularly the GTA, because of the better job and lifestyle opportunities. If you take a look at the chart to the left, what you'll see is that in 2023, Ontario received around 200,000 immigrants, and that's far surpassing all of the other provinces. And this concentration, again, is primarily in the GTA, and that's why there is such a high demand. And it is significantly driving up the demand for homes in this region.
It's not even in the same range, right? Like second is British Columbia and the third is Quebec, both sitting at 66,000 and 64,000.
Yeah.
Ontario at almost 200,000, right? Like it's insane to think about, guys. But it's important to think about. It's important to know that data. It's important to know that information.
And we have to consider as well, so these immigrants are coming to the country, right, with their families. For the most part, they'll probably be renting when they first come here just to establish themselves, to get stable jobs, to save some money. But at the end of the day, as Chirag had mentioned, they want to live that Canadian American type of dream that everybody thinks about, right? So eventually they will be purchasing property. And what is that going to be doing? It's going to be driving up the value of homes as well. So it's really about understanding what's happening and, again, making a strategic plan on how you can capitalize on this. Because it might seem alarming. You're thinking, well, the prices are going to be going up. They're going to be, there's going to be a supply gap, which we'll talk about as well. So what can I do? Well, there's a lot you can do, but you have to make the right steps to make a plan.
Absolutely. So now let's move on to the supply gap.
So obviously we discussed that the demand is very high, but what about the supply? So if we take a look, and this is from the CMCH, and what they have projected is that by 2030, there's going to be a gap of 3.45 million homes in Canada. Now that is huge. Enormous. And if we look at just Ontario, there's going to be a projected gap of 1.48 million.
And that's the baseline, meaning that's the average, right? So now if you have low economic growth, we're looking at 1.31 million. If you're looking at high population growth, you're looking at 1.65. Now, again, guys, those numbers are significant, whether they're on the low end or high end or even the average, because it's not like, oh, we're short 200 homes, guys. We got to build 200 extra homes for families that came into Ontario and whatnot, because we're looking at 1 million plus homes, right? That's a lot. And what's happening is that the federal government is the one that makes these policies for people to come in, and the provincial and the municipal governments are playing catch up, and they're going to continue to play catch up for quite some time. And so what that tells us and what that tells our clients is that there's opportunity. There's opportunities everywhere, and you have to make sure that you sit at the right table to get the right information, to make sure you're aligned, to make sure that you have a better future with your family in this country using real estate.
Exactly. And now if we take a look as well at the home prices.
Oh, my apologies. I think I mentioned this slide earlier saying that we already covered it, but no, we're going to cover it now. Average home prices. Okay. When people say, oh my God, is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? Is it going to crash? Is it going to blow up? Is it going to be thriving? Like, am I going to make $1 billion through real estate? Well, let's have a look at the data. So right here is the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board's MLS system data from 1994 till 2024. Okay, there's a substantial increase in home prices in the last 3 decades, I should say. Particularly a steep rise after the year 2000. Why? Because that's when the most growth happened in the last decade and so. right? Driven by factors of inflation, increased demand, limited supply, people coming in, jobs being created. Like there's a lot going on in this place. As a result, you're seeing this trend, right? So now let's make it more relatable. Let's consider a scenario. If somebody had bought a home in the early 2000s for around $300,000, which was very possible. I mean, that home today and by 2020 would have been worth over $1 million. And we've seen that. We've seen time and time after. If you guys have your own parents who have homes here, or you yourself have a home here for the last 20, 30 years, even 10, 15 years, you've seen the drastic change in valuation and appreciation that has given you, quote unquote, more value in your backyard bank, whether you know it or not.
And of course, things always go down a little bit, go up, but the main point is that over the long-term period, it is a steady incline and things are increasing. So it's really about holding those properties and just really capitalizing on that value.
Because at the end of the day, guys, there's always volatility, right? Like volatility comes from economical changes or other factors changing in your environment around you that cause things to go up and down, right? And that's fine. Volatility is great, and it shows that this market's live. It's alive. It's thriving. There's activity. There's things moving. Okay, it's not stagnant. But what's really important is to know that when you zoom out, what direction is it headed in? Right? Where is it going? What are the principles that dictate what direction it heads in? That's what's important. Okay. Yeah. Right.
So let's take a look at how home prices appreciate. So we're just going to use an example of a home that is worth $500,000.
And again, you're probably thinking, what, a home worth $500,000? Where are we going to find that in the GTA? I will, by the end of this webinar, you're not only going to know where this value stems from, but before we even begin, I want to let you know that just because you might not know of a detached home available in Mississauga, $500,000, that does not mean that there's no detached home available within a less than 2-hour span from here. That's earning revenue for people with great appreciation, great rental, and great opportunity.
So if we take a look, let's say you purchase a home for $500,000. And what we see on average is that the appreciation rate is 5%. Now, this can obviously also be higher depending on the location, types of properties, and many other factors, but let's assume a 5% appreciation rate.
Or it can be lower, but historically average, we're speaking here, 5% is a very safe number to use when looking at Canadian real estate over the last 30 years.
So what that would mean is that in that first year, the $500,000 home will increase by $25,000, meaning at the end of the year, your home, which was originally $500,000, is now worth $525,000. So going into the second year, that's the starting value of your home. Again, same 5% appreciation rate, but now it's a higher increase in value because it's compounded on this higher value. So it increases now by $26,250, making the year-end value in the second year $551,250. Now, if we just follow that chart up until the fifth year, we get, and this moved, not sure why, to 600, I believe it was 638,141 at the end of the year. So what that means
668,000.
638,000.
30,000, yes.
And what that means is that in that 5-year period, your property has now increased by $138,141.
Now, on top of that, not only has it gone up by $138,000, you've been paying back your principal amount, and you also have your down payment that's sitting on the property, right? So when you pull all that together, well, you're sitting on a lot of money. Okay, whether you know how to use it or not, that's besides the point. However, you have set yourself up to have that financial pool available for yourself to utilize how you choose to, based on the information that you then gain, right? What's really important is, sorry, I'll go back actually. What's really important before we move on to some financial concerns is that when you look at numbers of things, it's really important to make sure that you look at all sides prior to moving in and jumping into transactions. You have to understand what the numbers say or show on papers, right? At the end of the day, the numbers will always tell you whether it's a good decision or a bad decision, or it's a wait currently, because the numbers always make sense.
Mm-hmm. And if we jump back to those common concerns that we briefly discussed at the beginning, let's break them down a little bit. So starting with the financial concerns and can I afford a home? Well, here's the thing. There's a few things you need to know in order to determine whether you can afford a home. The first being you should speak to a mortgage professional, because by speaking with them, they can allow you to understand your borrowing capacity, how much you can afford, and really make the whole process seem way less daunting and more manageable. Because you must know your affordability in order to determine how you can reach your financial goals. And then it's breaking down the numbers, because what we believe here on our team is that when you're purchasing a real estate asset, what you're really purchasing is a monthly payment. And what we mean by that is because you are purchasing essentially a monthly mortgage payment. So, monthly mortgage payment. So essentially just understanding how much you would have to pay on a monthly basis, and how does that break down in terms of your overall expenses, and does it make sense for you? And then the last thing that you can consider is if you are purchasing a property, renting it out, so gaining that additional income from that property, which we also understand. We've heard from a lot of people that there's concerns surrounding that, but there is a solution that isn't always talked about, and I'm not really sure why, but that solution is property management. So,
well, actually, one of the big reasons why people don't talk about it is because they got to pay for it, right? People
True.
get deteriorated from the fact that, oh, I got to pay for this. I don't want to be involved in this. So I gotta pay for that. I want to be involved in that. Well, here's the thing. You know, some of you I know here have small businesses. Some of you want to create your own business. When you think of putting systems in place to make your business more efficient, to earn you more profits, to give you more peace of mind, to step away a little bit from every mundane task of the business, don't you look at that as cost of doing business? So why does it change when you look at your investment assets? I view property management as a cost of doing business. Our team views it like that, and so do our clients. Because the reality is, again, always if you can afford it. If you can't, that's a very different picture. But if you can, it allows you to have a hands-off approach and make sure your assets are maintained, they're managed, and they're thriving. They don't even have to know your name, right? And Andrew's going to get into the nose about of what property management really means.
Yeah, because as we mentioned, we have a lot of clients that come in that mention that they would like to purchase an investment property, but then they don't want to deal with the headaches of being a landlord, which is why we propose property management, of course, if it makes sense with the numbers. And what property management companies do is that there's a few services. First, they will do a property evaluation. So conduct a thorough evaluation of your property, make sure it's in good condition, see if there's anything that needs to be maybe renovated, adjusted, etc. They'll do professional photography and virtual tours, so that way they can present your property to its best, so that way you can find the best tenant. They will also do a thorough tenant screening, which is super important because they often have a very large database of qualified tenants, where they do full background checks, make sure they have all the verifications, identifications, and then they will present to you a few different options, so that way you have the final say of who will be renting out your property. And they'll do the full move-in process with the tenant. They will do all of the back and forth communication. So you really don't even need to speak with whoever is renting out your home.
You don't even have to know your name. You don't have to pick up their collect rent from them. You don't have to make sure that there's any issues happening with the property, because that's their responsibility. Moreover, there's actually property management companies that we are partnered with that we can help you also speak to, that also guarantee rental. You pay a little bit more, of course, but you at least know that X amount of months of the year, my rent is guaranteed, whether it's from them or the corporation. I am covered. My property is covered. My asset is covered. So my downside is covered, and that's what's important. My downside is covered.
100%, because that's one of the main things is, of course, making sure that the tenant maintains your property, making sure that they pay rent in full amount on time, and also then not having to deal with the headache of having to manage, manage the communications back and forth with the tenant. And that's why property management companies exist.
Absolutely. Now, moving on to another concern that we get. Can you time the market? When we get this one, I always ask back, should you time the market? Should you be, right? How do you know you've timed it? You have a crystal ball? I don't know about, because if you do, please, we'd love to sit down with you. But no, besides the point, really, can you time the market? Should you time the market? It really all depends, guys. At the end of the day, do the numbers make sense? There's opportunity in all types of markets. What's really important is to understand what you currently have, where you currently want to go, and how do you plan on currently getting there. But you see, the current key word is current. You have to take the actions in the present, because if you take the actions now, that doesn't mean you go and purchase an asset a month from now. No, but it's you start having the conversations with the right people to align yourself to make sure that when you are ready, when the numbers start to make sense, we jump, we approach, we take that leap.
Because if you wait a year to then start a conversation and you think, in a year I'll be ready, in a year you decide I am ready, and then you start having the conversation, well then maybe a year from then is when you actually make that leap and do the purchase. And it's one of those things at that point, as we've been discussing, homes do appreciate year over year. And then you might think, oh, am I too late now? Maybe now I can't afford things. It's really about breaking down the numbers and understand. Yes, right. And creating that strategy of how you can get to where you want to be, even if it doesn't mean jumping in right now, that's okay.
And guys, also think about it this way. You have to understand, what is real estate, right? What is real estate? What is property? It's a basic necessity of life of human beings. Okay. Now, unless you like living in the Amazon or a jungle, or you're just a full-time camper, you're gonna want to live in some sort of a shelter, at some sort of a property, some sort of a real estate giving you a shelter, roof over your head, your family's head. And that's the same across the board, no matter where you go in the world. So why is it that you're being deteriorated from jumping in and buying real estate and then waiting, instead of waiting to buy real estate, right? Think about it this way. There is a train that's at a platform. We're asking you to show up, grab your ticket to your first class cabin, sit down, enjoy a nice meal, and get to your destination in a systematic manner. Or you're running across the parking lot. Oh my God, I'm late. You're running across, trying to catch this train to get the last bucket that you possibly can get into, and it's leaving. It gets faster. It's going to the next place. That's what the market in real estate is always like. Guys, look at it from other countries, other cities. So act on the information that's provided, because at the end of the day, you will be the one that benefits.
And again, it's all a long-term perspective. And so to answer the question, no, you cannot. No, and you really should not. Again, it's all about what makes sense for you, your numbers, your affordability, and where you're trying to be. That's it.
Absolutely.
Simply put. And then when we talk about property selection, what if I purchase the wrong home? Well, here's the thing. Number one, you must understand your goals. What is it you're looking to achieve? Are you looking to upsize and get a bigger home for your family? Are you looking to find an investment property? You need to understand what you are looking to do. And from there, then you can make a strategic approach of how you can get there. And of course, as we've been stressing this whole webinar, you must understand the numbers. And this is where also the professionals come in. You must speak to industry professionals that will help you understand your affordability, help you create a strategy, help you to be able to achieve those goals that you have set out in place for you and your family.
Absolutely. And on top of that, guys, sometimes choosing a particular property or a real estate asset might not be the right move, right? This has happened actually a few times in the last year alone. We had people come in and say, hey, look, Chirag and Andrew, we have XYZ as a resource pool, and we thought we could get into this. What are your thoughts? And we decided, you know what, sure, we can get you something like that, but you're going to be pinched month over month, year over year. How about we position you in a way where next year we take this move, and from now until then, we'll look at helping you set up an Airbnb business that you can earn through somebody else's asset. You just lease it out, right? There's many different ways to earn money in real estate, and it's not just about purchasing real estate assets. And again, those avenues, you necessarily wouldn't know all of them. We don't know all of them.
Mm-hmm.
However, we know a lot of them. Hello, hello, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I think so.
Hello,
Yeah.
hello, hello. Can you
Perfect.
hear me? Okay, sweet. Apologies, guys. But hey, we're always ready for technology too. So what I was saying was, maybe buying property right away is not the direction we need to head into. We got to look at other means of earning money through real estate. It's the game, but the game has many plays, right? What play do we look at when you're showing up to the game field? That's what's really important.
Now moving on. What does this mean for your future? So if we think back to the example that we gave you of the $500,000 home, we want to discuss the long-term picture, what it means for you if you invest in such a property. So if we take a look at this slide, at the 5-year mark, what you're seeing is that $500,000 home is going to be worth $638,000. If we move into the 10-year mark, now it's looking at $814,000. At 20 years, it's 1.3 million. 30 years, 2.1 million. Now, that is significant, right? Because you've purchased a property for whatever reason it might be, whether it's to live there, whether it's to rent it out, it does not matter. But at the end of the day, you have an asset that is appreciating year over year, and it's essentially your backyard bank. That's what this webinar is about.
Absolutely. And so, guys, the reality is when you take the decisions to align yourselves to a brighter future, a better financial future, here's what some of the payouts look like for you, right? And going back to the example I said to you guys earlier, if I were to take out 100 grand from this, $1.3 million, 20 years into owning my property, my asset isn't going to depreciate in value. Did I cover this with this one?
No.
Okay, great. I will explain the scenario then. Sorry, we do a lot of these webinars, so I got a bit confused. So now here's the scenario for you. Let's say that you purchase a real estate asset and it's been 20 years. It's worth now $1.3 million, right? Now, let's say on the parallel side, you had done the same thing in the investment market for stocks or futures contracts or some mutual fund or anything like that. Or even if you just had money into your bank account, right? And let's say at this today and age, you had that same amount of money sitting there. Well, here's the thing. When you pull that 100 grand out of, so let's say there's a scenario that comes up in your life where you want to spend 100 grand, which is you traveling with your family across the globe for a year and not have to worry about anything, because for the last 20 years you've been working and you've been paying everything off, and now you want to relax a little. Well, if you go to any other investment vehicle and you pull out 100 grand to go on that trip, guess what? That investment vehicle is worth 100 grand less, right? Of course, you took 100 grand out. It's not worth the same. Here's on the flip side, the real estate. Let's say that same real estate vehicle that they had, and it's worth 1.3 million bucks. Now they can sit down with another professional and say, hey, look, I need a secure line of credit against my home, right? I have all this equity built in. I want to be able to use some of my funds, and I'm okay to pay for it over a monthly basis to pay that back. But I want to take 100 grand out. Well, guess what? You take the 100 grand out, your house doesn't depreciate by 100 grand just because you took 100 grand out in a line of credit, right? In fact, it stays at what it is, and it increases 5% year over year at whatever value it was, even when you took the money out on average.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really setting yourself up with the financial systems in place to make sure that no matter what it is that you need to capitalize on in the current moment, whether it's now or in the future, you have the financial means available and the options available because you have set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, so now let's look at asset utilization. This is one I absolutely love, and it's been getting a lot of attention recently. And some of you folks may have known about this. Some of you folks have not heard about this. But let's have a look. Right? What is asset utilization? It's utilizing your current real estate assets, your current real estate portfolio. I know a lot of you folks here have your real estate assets already. Some of you are looking to get into a real estate assets, right? And so it's really important to understand what that picture looks like for you too. And remember when we did the example earlier of $500,000 of a real estate asset, where can you buy that? I can put it in your backyard and I can make sure that we spend less than $500,000 and we earn more than the 600 and something thousand dollars that we had, or the $138,000 we had appreciated to in that example. And here's why. We've all known basement apartments have existed for a while, right? You have apartments that you can make into legal retrofit units in your home that you can rent out as a landlord. Very common across the board in major cities. Then now you have side units and you have rear units. Okay, side units go above your garage on the side of your house. Rear units go behind your house. But again, vehicles are asset utilization that you can upgrade into your home and earn more revenue, earn cash flow, increase the value of your asset. And the best part is your home that you've already invested into is paying for all of this. You are not. Right? Next, we have garage conversions. I remember I had a buddy of mine when I was in first year university. He didn't go to university or go to college. He was doing a lot of odd jobs. And he used to live in a garage, somebody else's garage. It was illegal back then, but he used to live in somebody's garage because that's the cheapest option he could find back then. Right? And now those are actual legal conversion units that landlords can create for people to actually utilize and earn money and to give shelter. Because again, guys, we're 1 million units short. This isn't about 20, 30,000 units. We're 1 million units short by 2030, if not more. Right? Then you have garden suites. This one is really interesting. Some of you folks have ample space in your backyards. You may not know this, but you can put up garden suites now. They're also known as detached accessory dwelling units, known as DADU, up in Barrie and a lot of places in America. But over here in City of Mississauga and Toronto area, we call them garden suites. Whether it's one of your kids wanting to have more privacy and they want to stay close to home but can't afford a home in the area, give them a garden suite. Whether you're someone who is earning well, your parents are hitting retirement, you don't want to put them in a retirement home, but you still want to maintain your family's privacy, no problem. Put them in a garden suite. It's having the options, the luxury of options when you set it up in the right way, right? Last one, sorry, we have laneway suites. Laneway suites you see a lot in dense downtown populated areas because townhouses usually have these laneways behind them, and how do you convert those into existing? How do you convert the existing land into a unit that people can actually utilize and earn money off of, give shelter in? Well, that's laneway suites, and that's all possible. Lastly, fourplexes. The government's doing a huge shift to converting existing units or existing dwellings into 4 separate units, 4 dwellings, all into one attached property, right? So taking a current home, either figuring out a way to make it a fourplex or demolishing and creating a fourplex in that same land. So there's a lot of different ways that the government is incentivizing its citizens and its people and the local investors and the foreign investors to be like, hey, look, here are the powerful steps we're taking forward to make sure we tackle this head on. This shortage of supply, this influx of immigration. This is how we tackle it head on.
Yeah, whether you choose to rent out some of these additional units, whether you choose to put your family members in them, as he had mentioned, at the end of the day, all of this will increase the value of your home.
Yeah, and the best part is your home is paying for it too. But again, the numbers got to make sense. Each individual scenario is always unique. Why we love what we do is because we live in the most multi-diverse country in the world, right? People come from all walks of life with a very different understanding of how money works, how real estate works, how to invest in it, how to use it, and so on and so forth. So for us, every individual is a unique scenario, unique to your needs, your vision, your goals, your strategy, and your family and your memories, right? At the end of the day, a home is where you create memories. A home is a place where you come down and relax. A home is a place you call shelter. A home is a place now that can set your future up too. So why not get you more, right? Now, moving on to
What can you do with this kind of investment? Let's say you purchase a property, it has appreciated significantly. You've built up all this equity, and maybe you've sold a home. What do you do now that you have earned from this investment in real estate? Well, there's a lot of things that you can do. Just to name a few, well, number one, pay off your mortgage. You want to get rid of that monthly payment that you have to make. You can pay for your kids' education, maybe save that money for the future when it is time for them to go to school. You can create a retirement nest egg. So that way, when it is time for you to retire, you can live comfortably. You don't have to worry about what you can spend, what you can do. You can just live that lifestyle that you've always wanted to live. You can, of course, invest in more property and grow your portfolio. You can do some home improvements. Maybe you have always wanted to maybe make a brand new kitchen that you've always dreamed of. Well, now you can. You can start a business. Let's say you've been thinking about starting a business, but you've been kind of hesitant because there is an upfront cost that you didn't want to fork up, and understandably so. Well, now you have this equity that you can use to start that dream job that you always wanted. You can also create an emergency fund or a rainy day fund, as people like to call it. So just so you are prepared in case something happens and you need funds available. And of course, charitable giving. It always feels great to give back, especially to those less fortunate than you. So if you have any organizations that are close to you that you want to give back to, well, now you have the ability to do so.
Again, at the end of the day, opening up options. These are only some of the many, many, many different options or ways to utilize funds in your life that you have available to you. And I'm sure you're going to have your own unique ways as well for yourself and your family. But the main thing is that having the ability to set yourself up so that you can have these options, you can have those doors open for yourself if and whenever needed. Right? Now, lastly, Q&As. And before we jump into Q&As, I'll let you guys sit and think about some of the questions that you have. I really want to stress the point, guys. What we mention here, this is not financial advice. This is not something we're saying like, listen to this, die hard, and like blah, blah, blah. No. For us, it's really about making sure that we are able to present information that we use on a daily basis and are passionate about, not only in our personal lives, but in our professional lives. We share this information with our clients with the hopes to make sure that they're informed, they're educated, and that their futures are bright. Right? And one thing I also do want to say also is when it comes down to worrying about, I don't have a mortgage agent. I don't have a property inspector. I don't have someone who's an architect. I don't have that stuff. That's okay. There's always ways to understand who works for you. One of the ways we do it is that over the years we've built a portfolio of partnered partner contractors, partner organizations that we work with in respective synergistic fields that are complementary to our business, that allow our clients to have easy access to professionals who are just as passionate about what they do. Anything else?
No.
Cool.
At the end of the day, again, it's about having a conversation, thinking about where you want to be, and then strategizing about how to get there, which I think we've been repeating a lot, but hopefully it's in your brain now. But let's see about the questions that we have in chat.
So
here.
one again, I just answered a little bit. I'll say it again. We're asking about mortgage professionals. How do we speak to someone who can tell us about affordability? At the end of the day, guys, we always encourage people to have their own mortgage professionals. If they don't, then we always let them know that, hey, here's someone who you can speak to. We don't dictate those relationships, nor do we tell you that you must use this person. At the end of the day, that's your decision. You decide where you feel comfortable, who you feel comfortable with.
And also, you can also speak to a few people.
Absolutely.
You don't have to just speak to one mortgage professional. You can.
Yeah, and that's always our approach as well. Like when we recommend any kind of professional in any field, it's not just about, hey, here's one person. No, here's 2 or 3. Here are your options. Go out, have a conversation, figure out how you guys gel well, figure out if there's a solution that they can help you with. And then once you are ready to trust somebody in that field, that's when we come back and we say, okay, let's bring it all together. Let's bring that strategy in, and let's put it all together, right? But it's the ability to make sure that you are sitting at the right table, to ask the right questions, to get the right information. That's what's really important.
Exactly.
Okay. Next question I see here, talking about immigration trends. Okay, you know what? I'm actually gonna take it back to the immigration trend chart, because yes. Okay. So the question is, do you see the immigration trend coming down in the next little bit, or do you think it's going to continue to rise? Well, here's the thing. The current landscape suggests that immigration is not going to come down to a 0 or halt, and it's not going to drastically shoot up where we're taking 1 million people a year, right? However, it's still going to consistently year over year bring in the same amount of people that they currently have been planning to do for the last couple of years, and what they plan to do for the next couple of years, right? So like I said, by 2030, we're projected to have more deficits in housing. Why is that? Well, that's because there's more people, right? So these are indicators that you have to use to understand, why is there a deficit by 2030? Why is the deficit looking to double by 2050 if there's no if people aren't coming in, right? And not only that, the families that do come in, guys, you have to also remember and understand, they will grow their families. They will bring their relatives. They will become larger in numbers as they solidify their roots in this beautiful country, right? So it's not just about the people that are coming in, it's all the people that are already here that are also growing. So it's what you're competing against. That's a great question. But yeah, I hope that helps. Next question I see about Dadoos. Fantastic. I love this stuff. Okay, let's go to Dadoos right now real quick. Okay. Dadoos, also known as garden suites, guys, in the back of the house. There are certain regulations and there are certain things that you have to keep in mind to make sure that you are even eligible to put up a garden suite. We're not going to get into the gist of all the regulations and the legality side of things. If you are interested in it, shoot us an email at info@ranarealty.ca, and we would love to send over some resources for you to read on your own time. But yeah, there are plenty of resources available online, and we have our own that we can guide you to. But yeah, great way to increase your current asset valuation, great way to earn cash flow, great way to help out family members, great way to really open up doors for yourself in the future. And some of these units, you can put up a garage conversion and a garden suite, right? And all of a sudden, if you have a home with a basement suite and an upstairs thing, well, now you have a fourplex really in that, or some sort of a fourth dwelling on that thing, right? So which is also encouraged by the government. So shoot us an email if you're interested about it. We can send over some information for you. Okay, next question. Okay, next one is about, average house prices. Okay, let's go back there. Okay, so the question says, do you see that there's a recent decline at the end and there's a pattern there previously? Oh, that's actually an observation, not even a question. Good, it's very smart. Yes, absolutely. So you notice that right after 2016, 2018, you had these dips happening, right? The average trend dips, and then it goes up again, and then it dips, and then it goes up again. Actually, if you look back, 2008, the same thing happened then as well, right? There is a dip. Volatility does exist in the market. However, you notice the upward trend year over year, looking at it from a 20-year, 30-year perspective. It's very different, guys. You have to look at numbers in a different way because real estate is not a short-term game. Okay, it can be. You can have short-term plays in the game, but the game itself is a long-term game. Okay.
Similar to the stock market, you know, same kind of situation, but
yeah. A lot of thank yous. Thank you, guys. Thank you. You're very welcome. Again, we're very passionate about this stuff. So for us, it's really important that you guys have the information that you need to make sure that you can act accordingly, right? Make smart decisions for your family, because you know things are scary. And yeah, like that Bill Maher video, you know, saying all sorts of stuff from, oh, immigration is too high, healthcare is going on the drains. Okay, I get it. I understand. It's something that's so flashy and it's happening all across the world in every single country, for the most part, I should say. But that doesn't mean that people just get up and leave. You don't just get scared and not do anything. You have to understand there's opportunity. How do you find it? What do you do with it? Why should you be looking for it? And that's what our vision with this here today was.
So we'll just leave you here because I think we're also over time by a good amount, and we don't want to.
Yeah.
And we don't want to take up.
I got it. So we don't take much of your time, guys. There are some repetitive questions. There's a lot of thank yous.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time for coming up. I know, you know, it's a busy day for a lot of people. So here's some next steps for you folks. If you have any questions, any concerns, you know, you want to dive deeper onto anything we've discussed today, you want to strategize with us, you know, by all means, give us a shout. You can go to ranarealty.ca. You can give us a call at 416-550-1155, and you can email us at info@ranarealty.ca. We thank you again for coming, and again, thank you for all the kind words and the wishes. Really, truly means a lot to us, and we will continue to provide information like this for you guys going forward. And yeah, this was really fun.
Yep. Thank you very much. No, it was a pleasure speaking to you guys, sharing the information, and we'd love to have any conversations. If you guys have any questions, you want to sit down and strategize together, we would love that. Just you have to make the first step to reach out, and we're here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, have a lovely rest of your day, guys. We will stay in touch. Remember, you know where to reach us. Take care. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.